Hello, friends. Welcome to this introductory session that is specially designed to provide a kind of a general, say, guideline for those of our faculty members who are going to record for our, say, content creation. So, in this session, basically, we are going to discuss two broad areas of the session recordings on OBS. So first half of it will be talking about the general guidelines and a few language expressions that all of you can use, of course, by customizing according to your requirement. So let's quickly have a look at some of the prerequisites. So those of you who are going to start their recordings for our content must have these prerequisites checked much before you start your recording. The very first is make sure in the system, especially when you are going to do it from your home, that in your laptops or in your desktops, the OBS say is installed, and with the backdrop of PU, I think you can see behind me the backdrop that's there. If you know how to do it, great. If you do not have, especially when you are doing it for the first time, you can take help of our technical team. They'll definitely be more than happy to guide you to install the OBS, and will also help you to set the backdrop. So that's the first requirement. Also check, say once or twice before you start your recording actually. So that's the first prerequisite that you should have. The second is go through the PPT thoroughly before you start your recording. Uh, I'm sure we ensured it that all the faculty members would be given the subjects of their as expertise. So I don't think we need to tell them more about how part of it. But in terms of delivery, in terms of recording, and in terms of recording a session at one take, because understand it's going to be recorded, and let's say something goes wrong in between, then it's possible that your entire recording you either have to re-record, or you may have to put some awkward pauses in between. So in order to avoid that, you make sure that you go through your PPT thoroughly that you are going to use for your recording. Third, you keep duration of time in mind, broadly speaking. In fact, at the time of preparing your structure, you are, I'm sure, given the instruction that let's say if you are preparing a content for 4 credits, then you are ideally supposed to reach to 20 hours of recording, which comes around 1200 minutes. So if you have to record 1200 minutes, then you can make those micro and macro calculations that for one particular recording, a subtopic, how much time should you say devote, and accordingly you can say prepare the content, the script, and maybe rehearsed a few say handouts that you can keep, which is going to bring us to the next topic, which is you have ideally a script that how are you going to start and how are you going to end, and you also keep some cues, maybe some say reminders that okay, in this introductory slide I'm going to use this example. In this, I'm going to elaborate with maybe some case studies. So those cues you can keep for each PPT, so that may help you to elaborate the point topic wise, and that will be easier and faster. You can also keep the points slide wise and topic wise, from where if you think that it's going very fast and you need to elaborate, you would know those say slides and the topics, or maybe subtopics where you can elaborate if required, and you can also say wind up it's if it is getting too long. So that's what you should keep in mind before you start your recording. And of course, keep say opening remarks and closing remarks handy. As they say that the first impression is last impression, but that's not the entirely true. Yes, well beginning is half done, but it's also important that how you end is also important. So maybe you keep some greetings, some expressions that you can keep, with which you start and with which you end. So that's what you should have handy. And if possible, have one or two rounds of such recording. And it's our observation that once you successfully record one or two sessions like that, then it will become very natural for you that you start a recording of 20, 40, or even 50 minutes of recording at one take. And that's the ideal, and that's how you can finish the recording in the given time. So these are the prerequisites that you must have. Now, we are going to look at some of the broad general do's and don'ts, what you should and should not do at the time of recording. The first, what you should not do is a common mistake that many of the faculty members are doing, that they introduce themselves with their names or they greet them by saying maybe good morning or good afternoon. Names are something that we do not endorse because it's ultimately going to be the property of say a university, in this case Parul University, and the greeting part would be an issue that you don't know when the students are going to access this recorded session. So it could be morning, it could be afternoon, it could be late in the evening. So better you start by saying hello students, uh, etc., and not say good morning or good afternoon. Neither do you introduce yourself with your name. Okay, so that's there. What you should not do is a very, very common mistake, especially for those who are beginners, those who are not confident, that they put everything in the PPT and then they literally read their PPT, which is a big no-no. You shouldn't just read your PPT. You can elaborate the points that are there in your PPT, but not merely reading it. Uh, Avoid using fillers when you are not experienced, when you are say getting conscious, then it's possible that you'll have some awkward pauses, ums and ahs and which looks very odd, and especially when it is being recorded, it looks awkward. But with say some amount of practice, I'm sure all of you can overcome the habit of using fillers. That's what you should not say practice. The other aspect is do not use your hand gestures. There are some who are having maybe consciousness, so they'll be having no facial expression at all, which is also not an ideal thing. And there are others who may use a lot of hand gestures, particularly your hands, and you know that your torso is going to be recorded, and if you use your hands like this, it's going to block your face, which is a big no-no that you shouldn't avoid. Ideally, if required, you use it, but otherwise there is a pointer, as you can see, that's available that you can use, and not the uh, say hands. That will be an awkward thing. So a pointer like this can be used rather than the ones. You can also use pen to highlight the point that you are talking, or you may use the cursor to talk about. So these are the aspect that you should look for. Now we shall look at one more thing, which is don't use too much content in the slide, which we see that at times a lot of content is put, and as you can see here, the picture of the speaker, the video of the speaker would come at the bottom. As you can see, mine would come. So if there are a lot of content and if you have a video, then the video would block the the content, and that's why you keep as little say content as possible, and particularly the bottom hand right hand side bottom corner you keep for this window that you can see myself right now. So that window should be kept say empty. No content should be there, so that it will not get blocked by the video site. So that's the one. So that's something which is about what you should not do. Now we are going to look at something that you should do, and that is what we called do's. What you can do, what are the best practices that you can think, is the one that is the dress code. So in a dress code, as you can see, there has to be a blazer, ideally black, but if not black, at least dark color, and a shirt which is ideally white, but at least of a light color. So that's the dress code that you should maintain. You try and look at the camera. Now you can see if I go slightly here and slightly there, or if I keep on looking at some other content, then it'll look very awkward, because it'll be most probably your only face would be visible, at the most your neck and maybe your collar. So there, if you do not look at the camera, it may look very odd, and that's why you say concentrate on the camera. And whether your alignment is in the center or not, if you want to check, you can always check maybe for 10-15 seconds, and you check the recording whether it is coming in the proper alignment or not. And then once you find it okay, then you can start the final recording. That's ideal. Use highlighter pointers that I just mentioned. It will help you to explain, it will help you students to understand that what point you are making. So that's something which you can say definitely try, and that's ideal. So that's general do's and don'ts and prerequisites. Now, before we end, I'll just want to add one more aspect, which is the images and the graphs and charts that may help you to explain better. So that's something which you should do. Then we are going to look at some useful expressions. I'm sure many of you must be very already good with your language content, so you may not need these expressions, but for those of you who have some doubts, some issues with their expression, they may find these expressions useful, then they may use it. The first is, of course, the greetings, as we discussed already. We'll not say good afternoon and good morning, but we rather say hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Distance and Online Education. Today, we are going to discuss what a topic you're going to discuss. So that's in this case, for example, it would be today we are going to discuss the topic how to record session effectively. So that's how you can introduce the topic rather than yourself. The opening remarks can be in today's session. We'll be discussing, or we will discuss the do's and don'ts of recording videos, or we may also talk in terms of as we had discussed in the previous session, especially from second and third, say recording onward, there'll be a connection of the previous topic, and maybe you are explaining an advanced topic or maybe a related or a connected topic, then you may go back to the previous session, what was discussed, and then you connect the dot with the one. And of course, you can also start by saying that hope you'll find it useful or hope you'll find it interesting. And that I think is a good way of starting. You may also say, before we start, let me define or give you some introduction. So that can also be tried out. And first of all, let us understand what is right. So these are the opening remarks and starting points. As they say, well beginning is half done. So that's what you can try. Then comes the main body. The main body is the space where you're going to spend maximum of your time. So there, if you have to talk about a topic, then you may talk in terms of that this is a very important topic, or this is an imperative say area to be discussed. You can also say it is one of the most interesting topics, concepts, or whatever the things that you are introducing. XYZ is the most relevant topic in the field of is yet another expression that you may use. Then, in case you want to highlight some area, some concept, some phrase, you might use the expression such as we had discussed in the previous session or a chapter, and then you connect the dot by highlighting the important part. As you can see on the screen, the image or a chart or a graph that you would like to express, and that you can definitely use with this expression. Now, I would like to show or like to present to you if you are introducing some new topic that is in the connection. Our point of view, your point of reference, you can give from my perspective or my standpoint or point of view, or you may also say if we see objectively or according to a study that you may use in your main body. So then you may also, of course, use in my opinion and if you ask me. But if it is an objective topic, of course, you avoid the subjective remarks such as in my opinion or if you ask me. But if there is a space, you may use these expressions as well. How do we end is also important because you need to give them parting remarks. So before we end or before I conclude, I would say like to add one more topic, right? Or in order to sum up the topic, let me suggest or let me make a recommendation. So that's how you can uh, say indicate that you are ending, or you may also use the phrase such as at the end, finally, right? So that's there in this session we had discussed. So if you remember in the beginning, you might say hope you'll find it interesting. At the end, you might give a quick summary at the say end by saying in this session what were the topics that we had discussed, right? So then how do you end is the last parting remarks. So then you of course might say, hope you found this session interesting or useful. You might say the connection to the next session as well, that in the next session the following uh, say we shall discuss, and whatever is a connected topic you may introduced in advanced. And thank you for listening and carefully, and see you in the next session. So these are a few expressions. If you find useful, you can definitely customize it and use as per your requirement of the recordings. But ideally you should have these say recordings as a training session, and many of the faculties have given us the feedback that at the end of this recording they found themselves better with their language expressions, better with their concept clarity, and of course much better in facing the camera and the live or recorded sessions. So that's what it'll make to you. It'll make you better version of your own self. And all the very best to all of you. Best wishes for your recording. Please take it as a positive challenge and see a say a better version of yourself. So that's all for today. Thank you all for listening, and best wishes for your recording.